right, and here's the wave mate for Robots in Disguise Optimus Prime. This is Robots in Disguise Autobot Drift. He'll probably just go by Drift in the show, but he is labeled in the package as Autobot Drift. And you know how I feel about orange, so you can see I'm happy that he is a nice bright orange car. It's actually more of a carroty orange with a little bit of red in it. It's not quite as... It's not the bright orange. It's closer to what I'm... Looking at the camera, it's closer to what I'm seeing down here versus what I'm seeing up here with the lights actually hitting it. But yeah, he's a little sports car, futuristic looking little sports car. Goes with the aesthetic of the cartoon we've seen so far. His wheels are actually translucent. And the same kind of pop-on wheels that we've seen on the line. And his little hood ornament kind of matches his... Actually, his whole hood... It kind of looks like his face here with the cut out of his helmet and the little horns, but we'll get to that later. There is a slight gap here between the window and the door, and that doesn't appear to be from mistransformation. It's a little smaller over here, and you can push this together to get it to sit a little closer, but I've checked to make sure everything's pegged in all the way, and there's just on both sides just a slight gap between the window and the door. It doesn't really kill the aesthetic. You only see it when you're looking at it from like a certain angle. When you're looking straight at it, you can kind of see the orange inside there, but it's not as glaring at a casual glance than it would appear. So yeah, he's got his swords tucked under here, and you can see he's kind of got the little samurai motif already with the helmet and the shoulder pads. It looks very much like if they repainted this into bludgeon, I could see it working. But we'll see if they end up doing anything else with this mold. So yeah, just a cool little orange car. Transformation, you want to go ahead and pop the swords off, just like that. There's a little groove in the handle of each sword that goes on these little tabs here underneath car mode. And you and peg his arms here, and pull this whole assembly out. Unpeg the arm, unpeg the whole assembly. Then you unpeg these windshields, and it has a transformation very similar to Bumblebee in that these come down onto, and there's a little peg here onto the back of his legs, and peg in down here, and you rotate the waist around, flip down his giant feet. He's got some giant feet there. Split his legs, bring the arms down. The arms actually, see, they collapse up like that, so you extend the arms down a little bit. His wrists also have a hinge here. I'm not entirely sure what for, because if you do it like that in car mode, it'll hit against this bumper, but he does have some articulation in his wrists here. So we'll go ahead and bring those down, extend the arm, and then this whole front piece comes down and flips up onto his back, and then the chest panel flips down, and there's Drift. There's his little scanner code thing. Now, the hip plates here also have some articulation, so you can put him in wider leg stances. He's not locked into position like this. These do ratchet out. So that's kind of nice as well. He can hold his swords in his hand, just like that. They should fit. They're flat handles, but they should fit in any 5mm port. But you can hold his swords in his hands, or as you can see over here on one of his little waist plates, you can store his swords through here in robot mode. They do stick out a bit, but he does have storage for his swords in robot mode, which is kind of cool. On the head, again, he's got the helmet with the crest. And if you look up close, it's on his art. You can see he does have the sculpted mustache and goatee. It's not painted. It is like it looks pretty big here on the thing, but it actually is quite small. I can kind of understand why they didn't paint it. Although it's not really any thicker than the detail lining around the helmet that they painted, but being in between the helmet, it may have been a little harder for them to paint. I'll probably touch it up with a marker or a paint pen or something, but it is there. I mean, he's actually got a pretty nicely detailed face with some really fine details on it, despite being rather small. So, and you can see here's the box art. You can see here on the box art, he's got the full helmet with the blue eyes and the painted, the mustache and the goatee down here. So, just to give you an idea of what he looks like in the show. Now, in the show, he does. We've seen a clip where he kind of shoots a couple of he's got like some arm shields that pop off and become little Gurren Lagann-esque looking minicons. And apparently that's going to play into this line down the road. Like I've seen some listings for launchers or whatever, which maybe that it could just be cars that launch out of like a launcher tube, like Hot Wheels or stuff. It could be figures that actually launch the minicons off. I don't know. Minicons are apparently coming. There are some that are compatible with drift. I don't know if they'll work with this deluxe figure or not. But I do dig the design of his little shield guys, and I'd like to see them in toy form. So we'll see how it goes. Articulation-wise, he's got, it's not a ball joint, but he does have a swivel head. He's got a hinge there. It actually is a ball joint. It's a little limited due to this molding back here, but it is a ball joint there in the shoulder, and then a hinge. You can see that hinge right there in the back of the shoulder pad. He's got a bicep swivel. He's got dual hinged elbows, although really this hinge is only really effective in robot mode. Like this hinge is mostly to allow it to fold up for transformation. It doesn't go any further forward than that. He's got that wrist hinge. I don't know what it may just be to get his wrist out of the way a little bit of this car door when he's holding the swords. But it is there. He does have a waist swivel. It's kind of right up here, right under his rib cage, basically. He's got the movable plates, ball joint hips, and he does have a thigh swivel here. The knees don't ratchet, but they're on pretty tight, and there's a screw right there if you feel like they're too loose. And a little bit of foot articulation, but I mean, like, it actually even goes past flat a little bit, so you can get a decent amount of poses out of him, but there's no ankle tilt side to side. Granted, his feet are big and wide and flat enough that it shouldn't be an issue, but there it is. So he's got a decent range of articulation on him. I don't have the whole line with me, but I do have Grimlock with me. You can see about how big he's a little taller than Grimlock. He's actually taller than Prime now that I look at it. And here he is with his Wavemate Prime. He like to the top of his head, he's about a quarter of an inch taller than Prime. Although looking at the camera, just looking at the down angle, it's not super noticeable. But let's see if I bring this down a little bit. You can see he actually is at the top of his head, just slightly taller than Prime. Although Prime does still retain the overall height thanks to those big old shoulder pads. So yeah, Prime and Rid are starting to show up at Targets lately. Get this locked back into place. But yeah, like I said, Grimlock I think is still my favorite of the line. Although you got to be careful with his arms. Prime, actually, now that I've done that forearm fix, is growing on me as well. Bumblebee is good, and Drift might actually be my favorite at this point. Does he beat out Grimlock? I don't know. But he's one of the more solid figures in the line. I love his car mode. I love the orange. It's just a really neat, kind of unique car mode. I like the sword storage here. I like his overall design. He does look a little bit bludgeony, Unicron-y look to him, but it's weird because like it seems like every time we see Drift, he's something different. We've seen Drift as you know, in the comics, he's a white sports car. In the movies, he was a blue Bugatti / helicopter. And now we're seeing him here. I wonder if you say there was another Drift, too, that was even then a different color. And now we've got this orange and black Drift from the Robots in Disguise cartoon. But yeah, overall, like I said, if you're going to get, like I said, if you're going to get any two, I'd say get these two. I think these two are the most fun of the line so far. Prime's not a bad choice. If you're willing to do the forearm mod. Bumblebee's good. Strong Arm and Steeljaw. They're not horrible. Like I said, I think Steeljaw is probably the weakest. But yeah, Drift's up there. Drift is definitely in the top two, if not my top one for this line. Just aesthetically, I like his design. It's kind of the same with Grimlock. The Japanese, you know, the Godzilla and the Japanese Samurai, of course, those are the ones that I like the best, but whatever. So there he is. There's Robots in Disguise, Warrior Class Drift.